Welcome back. A local state of emergency was declared by the city of Virginia Beach. That's after a tornado whirled through the area Sunday night. Eyewitness footage captured the moment when the tornado was about to hit. The extent of the damage is not yet clear, but according to fire officials, it included downed trees, roof collapses, and gas leaks. Officials estimate between 50 and 100 homes were damaged. No injuries or deaths have been reported. And a tornado swept through southeastern Florida over the weekend, bringing heavy rain and winds of over 100 miles per hour and causing damage to cars and other property. Here's NTD's Cost Jimenez with more.
Oh my God.
The tornado touched down in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida on Saturday. Eyewitness video captured the moment the car was flipped into the air and hurled debris all over the highway. More footage showed cars stacked onto one another in an open parking lot, as well as damage to buildings, including torn-off roofs. Trees were uprooted. According to eyewitness reports, it started out as just a thunderstorm. Then, from when it formed to when it hit, it was only a matter of minutes. The National Weather Service in Miami reported the twister as an EF2 tornado, characterized by wind gusts between 110 and 135 miles per hour. No fatalities and only minor injuries were reported. The National Weather Service on Saturday afternoon placed a large stretch of central Florida under tornado watch as thunderstorms were hurling across the state. Officials confirmed emergency protocols were deactivated on Sunday. Storm damage caused major roadways to be closed as authorities worked to clear debris and assess the damage. The tornado was part of a series of severe weather events that hit Florida over the weekend. Cost Jimenez, NTD News.
From fugitives to failures, First Republic Bank is back in the headlines. It's become the second largest bank failure in U.S. history. Regulators seized the troubled lender over the weekend and sold it. JPMorgan Chase Bank was the winning bidder. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the deal and what's next for First Republic's customers.
JPMorgan Chase will be taking over all deposits and most of First Republic's assets. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, says California regulators have closed First Republic and appointed JPMorgan Chase as receiver. First Republic Bank's 84 branches in 8 states will reopen Monday as branches of JPMorgan Chase. First Republic has struggled since the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank in early March. It received a lifeline of $30 billion from the nation's largest banks, but that proved not to be enough. Investors and depositors grew increasingly concerned that the bank might not survive. Because of its high amount of uninsured deposits and exposure to low interest rate loans, it was seen as the most likely to fail next. The company reported its total deposits fell 41% in the first quarter, and that depositors pulled more than $100 billion out of the bank in April. Its stock plummeted 75% last week, with shares closing at $3.50 on Friday, down from roughly $170 a share it traded for a year ago, and dropped even further in after-hours trading. Its shares fell 97% since the problems at SVB surfaced. The seizure makes it the third U.S. bank to fail since March. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
A new Texas bill would ban the purchase of farmland by citizens of hostile foreign nations. The measure was passed by the state Senate. The bill targets countries officially listed as a national threat for 3 years in a row. That currently includes China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Permanent residents and dual citizens still would be allowed to buy land under the bill, though. The measure specifies that only land where foreign ownership would pose a threat is off limits. That means agriculture, oil, timber, and mineral-bearing areas. Other states have proposed laws to stop hostile foreign governments from purchasing U.S. land. Those include North Carolina and Florida. At the national level, Senator Tom Cotton introduced a bill last month on the topic. It would ban Chinese citizens from purchasing farmland and real estate in the U.S. with some exceptions.
And back in the U.S., the number of Americans who are at least 60 days overdue on their car payments is up about 18% from last year, and auto repossessions are on the rise. I wanted to learn more about how families can navigate these difficult financial times, so I spoke with a lending expert. Have a listen. Joining me now is Ted Rossman, credit card analyst at Bankrate. Ted, it is so great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
This is just a tough situation. Nobody wants to lose sleep because they're worried about their car being repossessed because they chose to buy food and feed their family instead of making their car payment. Ted, what kind of advice do you have for families that are struggling right now?
My top tip would be speak up and communicate with your lender. I know sometimes this sounds kind of odd, like, isn't that weird to let them know that you're having trouble? It's actually the best thing that you can do because they might be able to work with you. Maybe they can modify your loan agreement. Sometimes they're willing to let you skip a payment or two and tack it on to the back end of the loan, or maybe they could at least temporarily lower your interest rate or rearrange your due date or whatever it is. I actually think it really pays to speak up and see if they'll cut you a break. That's probably the simplest, easiest route to take. After that, then I think the decisions get tougher. You know, if that doesn't work, then I think you're in a position where you need to either consider ways to up your income or cut your expenses or, you know, maybe refinance or sell the car. It gets more complicated from there.
Communication is key, and a little bit of relief can help. But why now? Are people buying cars that they can't afford, or are they just locked into these loans with these suddenly increasing rates, topped with red-hot inflation?
I think inflation's a big part of it. Certainly what that's done to the car market. I mean, a lot of people are paying upwards of $40,000 for a new car now. We're seeing monthly payments on the order of $700, maybe even $800 a month. In fact, about 1 in 6 new car buyers are paying more than $1,000 a month. And inflation is not just in the car market, of course, it's on other things as well. Gas, car insurance, but also your rent, your groceries, maybe your medical bills, other things. So I think there's a big spillover effect. And, you know, even for somebody who thought maybe they could swing the car payment, if costs have gone up so much in other areas, now that's not realistic. It's tough. A lot of people are getting squeezed by this.
Ted, as you alluded to, these are tough economic times. Do you have any advice for buying a car? Is it better to just pay cash or financing options here? I mean, what about auctions?
If you can pay cash, that would be the way to go because car loan rates have gone up a lot. Even if you have good credit, you're probably looking at something like 6, 7, 8%. If you have a lower credit score, I mean, you could be well into the double digits. I think you need to consider the total cost of ownership too. We're seeing this disturbing trend where people are adding loan terms, adding years to the loan term. So, you know, in the past, we used to think about maybe a 4 or 5 year loan as being the max. Now people are financing cars over 6, 7, even 8 years. And that really adds a lot to the interest expense over time. It may make the monthly payment a bit more affordable, but it keeps you in debt for a much longer period. We're seeing more people underwater on car loans as well, where they owe more than the car is worth. I mean, it's a depreciating asset. It's important. It gets you to work and gets you around town. But think about that total cost of ownership. How does that fit into your budget? And what about other ancillary costs like insurance and gas?
That time value of money, it really adds up over these longer loans. Ted Rossman, credit card analyst at Bankrate. It was really great hearing from you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Art has fascinated mankind for thousands of years, from 17,000-year-old cave paintings in France to Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man and the unforgettable heroes and villains of Shakespeare. Storytelling and imagery have stood at the birth of countless ideas. See how a novel written 150 years ago compelled 2 best friends from Texas to take a trip of a lifetime.
Sandy Hazlip was reflecting on her approaching 80th birthday when she suddenly had an idea.
I just mentioned one day, Ellie, wouldn't it be fun to go around the world in 80 days at age 80? Well, she thought about it and her eyes got big and said, woohoo, and started planning.
They had it all planned out, but then COVID came and shut the world down.
But COVID didn't shut us down. So our new theme is
Around the World in 80 Days at 81 and Still on the Run.
They kick things off in the cold country.
Well, we started in the Antarctic because, you know, we're doing 7 continents, 18 countries, 80 days. And just for your information, we did plan everything ourselves.
And the pair didn't break the bank doing so either, averaging just $29 per person per night.
That's the only way we could afford to do around the world in 80 days.
After Antarctica, the two were scheduled to go to Peru, but political unrest shut the country down.
So we just had to change at the very last minute and go to Argentina. And we had a great time in Argentina.
Wonderful time.
We just figured we got to go with the flow.
Since then, they've been in the Australian outback, soaked up the beauty of Tasmania, taken a sleigh ride in the Arctic, and flown in a hot air balloon in Egypt.
No problems, just fun, just an adventure.
And we've made every single day. We've not like somebody sick in bed and we just can't do that.
No.
That has never happened for 78 days. We've been able to get up early every morning and do what we were going to do.
They set some criteria for choosing the locations.
Well, part of it was we definitely wanted to see some of the world wonders. And of course we wanted to go to all 7 continents. And then we wanted to fit in some of the cities that Phileas Fogg went to in his around the world trip.
Phileas Fogg being the hero of the Jules Verne novel Around the World in 80 Days.
Yeah, it was Phileas Fogg's Around the World in 80 Days. That's where it all started from. You know, reading the book, watching the movie, that's where we got the big idea.
The best friends met through medicine.
We met about 23 years ago. Sandy's a medical doctor, and I direct a medical mission in Zambia.
Tragedy brought the two friends closer together.
My husband had died 6 months before I met Ellie, before we first met. And then, as she said, we started going on the mission. I started going on the mission trip, and we became better acquainted. Then her husband died about 5 years later, and I knew what she was going through, so we just got closer after that.
We asked the pair if they have any advice for others looking to take the plunge and do something magical.
We sure would encourage anyone. You may not do it 80 days, but just get out. And what do you have to say, Sandy?
Well, my advice is get up out of that easy chair, step out of your comfort zone, make some plans, and live.
And the two had one final message: age is just a number. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.